That was my really, really dark moment in my life, and is when I didn't stay contemplating the idea. I didn't think anything else more. No, that shook me so hard that I thought, what am I doing? And it's when at that moment the clarity, these thoughts of clarity, because at those moments we even lose all the sense of logic. We're completely disconnected. There's no clarity, there's no discernment. But at that moment, that the light thankfully just touched me enough to think, wait one more day. Wait one more day.
Said, okay. When that person came in, immediately went into a trance and told me this very specific word, which I have imprinted on my head. It is not your time. You cannot do this. If you go like that, you're going to take this with you.
It was very innocent to just think that throwing a, a coin into my mouth with soap. So what happened in that moment? It was the moment I saw the coin throwing it in the floor. Of course, I was just imagining my mouth full of soap. I just wanted to drink water. I wanted to, but in that moment, I just immediately saw this big angel like I usually used to see in my raffle. Every time I've had my raffle for different reasons, it was always when I was in a moment of about to lose my life. I went immediately to the grass, to my garden, started with the hose drinking water. I started drinking and getting all the soap out of just flushing it out. And then I laid down in the grass. And this is really what I want to tell you all. Probably this is the first completely conscious first meditation. I didn't even know it was called like that.
Hello, everybody. It is so
Hello.
good to have you back here in another episode of In Dying, I Began to Live. Here, Ingrid Honkala.
Ana Cecilia González.
And Francisco Valentin.
We are so thrilled with all the questions. We have so many people digging into our episodes and really asking profound and important questions, like the one we're going to discuss today, which is the dark night of the soul. This is actually, we've been talking about like how difficult actually is to explore this subject, because it's something that one way or another has touched many of us. So again, this is a hard one, this is a difficult one, but we want to answer all your questions, so we are here for the challenge. So I want to start with you, Anna. What do you think is the dark night of the soul?
Well, thank you, Ingrid. First of all, I would like to clarify to anybody listening to us that when you hear the dark night of the soul, it's like there's no darkness in the soul. We all know that's not where this comes from, but it does come from a deep moment, because the soul is not dark. It's what's happening to us that does not allow us to see the light that we receive, that is always in our soul. So we're talking about, I think, everybody here, and just think about this while you listen to us. Like Ingrid says, this is a difficult one, because we're going to open our hearts. For many of us, it's been the first time we open this. And it is about the dark moments in our lives where we were so lost and so not understanding what was the reason of even our existence in that moment, that really covers us from seeing that light that we are in, that resides in our soul. So for me, it has been this really has been a very clear path, because I think I've had many moments of darkness, of difficult moments where I've had this, what we call the dark night of the soul. And I was just telling Francisco a little while ago that this comes from the 1600, this name from this, what did I tell you, Francisco? That was the name of this being. I just, let me
Tone,
just,
tone.
John of the Cross in the
Yes.
1600. And he explained that this was precisely a very dark night where he didn't understand what was the meaning. And there's even a book that talked about this. So in my case, this one of the first moments I remember, it was when I was a little girl. I was a very young girl. I was with having my heart condition. There was such a very dark moment in my life that I call this probably the first moment I remember of my the dark night of my soul. But I'll let Francisco start. But this is the meaning of what it's really the dark moment in your life. So let's continue with Francisco and let's see what he has for us right now. And then we'll keep on going.
Thank you, Ana Cecilia. Uh, yes, indeed. This is a very delicate and at times controversial subject, uh, because religion is involved in all this. Some beliefs, there are some belief system that they do believe in this or believe in that. Uh, and the dark night of the soul has many aspects. I can only, and I have promised myself, and as a channeler, I promise myself not to speak of any subject other than from firsthand experience. And I can speak of myself in that regards to the dark night of the soul. And usually, if not always, I don't know much about that, but it happens when people start having spiritual transformations, and somehow they get lost one way or the other, and that's how depression or things start happening. In my specific case, I can make the I can ratify the experience of having a dark night of the soul 1 year after I start uh, my channeling experience. I began to channel in the year 2011, actually, to be more specific, July 7th, 2011. And a year after, by the year 2012, as I was channeling, I had an intruder. And because I didn't have a formal education into knowing how to channel or knowing more about the spirit world, uh, I became curious and I went after that presence. When that presence became to feel dense or dark, I pull out. But I never said anything about it. Then, sometime later, it happened again. And the third time that it happened, it grabbed my mind and started putting things in my head, things that made me very confused. It was a world of deception, a world where I was experiencing life in another way, as if I was uh, being living a lie. And I started running the movie in my head of all the things that may have happened. I started tying knots, and uh, and I became very disturbed up to the point that I contemplated seriously committing suicide because I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't deal with my experience. I couldn't deal with what was happening to me. I spent by that time I already had spent 3 days where I couldn't sleep. I was totally desperate, and and that's the scenario that I want to bring in right now at this moment. But first, I want to hear Ingrid's story before we continue to Ana Cecilia story. Ingrid?
Wow, Francisco, that just sounds pretty hard, I just really want to hear the rest of the story because
Yes.
you know, the thing that is striking me now is that how we just started to share, and I already have the sense of how different these experiences can be and how it can happen to anybody at any age. I'm not just talking about when she was a little, you were talking when it happened to you when you started channeling. So it's like there's not an age, or there's not a moment, or there's not a
No.
something we're doing. It's just a state in which those moments, I guess, in which we need to pay attention to the inner are shaking us hard. I think, and I'm going to completely share a different story, like with me happen because I felt disconnected. And I guess in most of the cases, the dark night of the soul happen when there's disconnection. Disconnection from what? From the truth that we are. And
Yes.
in my case, it all happened after it started when I was a very little child, after my near death experience, my first near death experience. Because in this experience, I felt that I had touched heaven, that I was back home. And it was the sense of like, I am home. And coming back was like, what happened? I want to go back home. Then my second near that experience happened, and it was even worse because when that happened, I was like already ready to, okay, now I can be home, and I was back again. So it was, for me, it was I could say a lifetime of feeling the sense of wanting to go back. So I think that I carried that nostalgic feeling, that sadness of, it was like a homesick pretty much. And you know, in terms of psychology, because through time I had to just go get help because I was feeling that sense of emptiness and sadness that turned into a very very bad depression. And the way it was explained to me is that from the time I was a little child, I was already experiencing this depression that I came to know as like existential depression. The very sense that I could not bear with the sense of I am this being, I am a human when I want to be connected to God in heaven, when I want to be home. So this is just incredible how this can be, this sadness or this longing for connection or home can happen to us in different ways. But now let's see how we can come out of it. I think that's the most important thing of what we're sharing today. So I want to hear more of Anna's story. And before we continue learning more about how Francisco to come out of this difficult situation he got into.
Yes, thank you, Ingrid. Yes, I think this has been difficult precisely because we touch fibers that you don't share easily with anybody. But I know that when we have a dark night of the soul, what we call it, there's a lot of darkness and confusion. There's even depression. You feel there's no reason of your, like I was saying, even your existence. I was probably 10 or 11 years old when as many of you already know and you've heard from other podcasts, I was born with a very serious heart condition. And in many moments in my life, I just felt like I had no oxygen, I had no air, my nails were completely deformed. I couldn't do anything that all my playmates did. I always had a very struggling time coping with trying to be normal, trying to be part of. And then I also understood that the only thing I gave every time I had a little flu or anything, I ended up in the hospital giving my parents a lot of suffering, because that's what I saw. And we've always said that we place ourselves like victims and we get into this victim mode. Well, yes, it was just that I felt out of place. Like I was someone, I always felt that I didn't fit. I didn't fit as a normal person. I just imagined that when I was around 5, I really thought I was a daughter of Godzilla, this dinosaur that turned all black, because my body really turned black when I was tired, when I had no oxygen. I just felt somebody that was very different and someone that didn't fit in this world. So after having a very difficult time with my mother, I mean, I was trying to fit that, and I was a rebel in many moments because I wanted to prove the world that there was a reason for my existence. But when you don't feel you fit, when you feel it's being so difficult as a teenager, mostly when you're a teenager, that there's all of these hormones going in your body, everything is changing, and you just don't understand yourself. And I was telling out of this recording, I was telling Francisco, there was no explanation whatsoever of my survival. I should have been gone when I was probably 7 or 8. That's what my parents were told. But I understood that there was something in me that was different, but still in that confusion, in that darkness, you don't understand. So I said, what's the reason for my existence? Why am I here? I'm just giving problems to my parents. I even felt this at many, many moments. Poor parents. Why did they have such a difficult child? Because sometimes parents say more with what they don't say than with what they say. So that day that I had, it was not really a night, but a very dark afternoon in my life, where I went down to the laundry room and I said, I just want to end this. I just want to finish with this, because I'm only trouble to my parents. I don't feel I can do everything my friends do. I don't feel I am a normal, because my nails were so terrible. Who's gonna like me? Who is ever gonna like me? Who is going to want to be my boyfriend? Who is going to be, I felt people were afraid of me when I turned so dark. So that night, that afternoon, when I went there to the laundry room, I found this big coin. It was a really big 20-cent big coin. It was, just imagine me being a little girl. And I saw that coin and I said, I'm going to swallow that and I'm going to stop this. So I put it in soap, thinking that with some soap, I was going to make it more difficult and I wanted to swallow it. So I did it, just imagining that with that, I was going to end all this suffering for me and for my parents and for everybody. Just imagine how dark moment it was, how confusing it was. Of course, I tried to put it in. It didn't even fit in my mouth. I threw it up. I immediately started coughing and coughing. And I, in the moment I saw that coin going out of my mind, this is where everything changed. But I'm going to stop it here so you see the rest of the story, how beautiful it ends after this, I would say for a child, a horrific moment, which I really felt there was no reason whatsoever to exist. So I'm going to continue with Francisco and then I'll tell you the rest of the story. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Uh, yes, it is. It is indeed very uh, compelling trying to understand all this, and and you have to look at it from the perspective. For example, in your case, a little girl who didn't know much about life and the circumstances, and in your ignorance, being naive, you thought that that will solve the problem.
So
Well,
Yeah.
innocent. Yeah.
but
Very
also,
innocent, very innocent. Yeah.
yeah, but it's not only innocence, it is also the stage of mind in which someone is when one is going through the dark night of the soul, because you were a little girl, By that time, I was a 50 plus year old man. And I thought that if this is the life that I'm living, I don't want to go through it anymore.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to commit suicide. And I did
Mhm.
not think of my spouse, my children, the financial instability. What am I going to be leaving behind? It didn't cross my mind. I was laser focused on one thing and one thing only, to get rid of my life.
Mhm.
Now, let me explain something about this, because I want to emphasize the fact that this is happening in my case specifically for spiritual reasons. Uh, I don't know if you've heard the saying "as above, so below." Uh, as above, so below means that as it is in the earth plane, so it is in the spiritual realm. Now, this is a metaphor as here or there, because there's no here and there's no there, and we should already know that by now. But as there are people that are here helping you, giving you good advice, um, helping you walk the path, helping you better understand the spirit world or the physical world, I should say, there are others that are here as well, trying to convince you to do wrong, like the little angel and the little evil, trying to pick your brain, trying to make you become mischievous and giving you thoughts that you said afterward, why was I thinking of that? As above, so below. So here I'm here on earth, but with the influence of those above, trying to persuade me to end my life so I can stop doing what I was doing, which is becoming a channeler, uh, to help people become better people in the earthly plane, so we can advance and become better selves and knowing more about the spirit realm. Having said that, uh, when those thoughts started coming into my head and I tried to commit suicide, I just made one phone call before finishing with my life. And that phone call, now I know that it was divine intervention, let's say. Through the phone call, I called a medium, which I was a good friend of that person. That person didn't know anything about what was happening at that moment, and very carefully I craft this question upon calling her. I said, "Tell me if what it is going through my mind is true or not." That's it. That's it. So this person could not have any prejudgment at all. The person said, "Yes, it is true." Then I hung up the phone and I said, "Okay, I'm done. I'm going to end up my life." Uh, Not even 30 seconds took place when the phone rang. I pick up the phone. It was the medium. And the medium said, uh, "Spirits want me to go over to your house. Will you allow me to?" And I said, "No." The second time,
Wow.
he tried again. "Please, let me go to your house. Spirits are asking me to go to your house." I
Mhm.
said, "No way," because in my mind, whatever was influencing me was already telling me she's gonna come with the help of someone. They're gonna put you in a straitjacket and they're gonna take you to the mental ward. And I said, "No way, you're not coming here." By the third time that she tried, I said, "Okay, but only if you come alone." Said, "Okay." When that person came in, immediately went into a trance and told me this very specific word, which I have imprinted on my head. "It is not your time. You cannot do this. If you go like that, you're going to take this with you." And I leave you with that because I want Ingrid to keep telling her story before I finish.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Wow, wow, Francisco. that's just, I don't even have words to say how difficult, yeah, these situations
It
for
was.
both of
Thank you for
you.
sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
It just blows my mind because we never know what anybody is actually experiencing. In my case, there was many moments in which apparently I was showing one face to the world, doing my life, going in to work, doing my things, and inside I was dying. And because listening to the experience also of Anna when she felt that she was a burden to her family, I remember growing up and that she felt different, like she was like this Godzilla thing. I grew up feeling like I was like an alien too, because I didn't fit in this world. I when I was in a school, I experienced a lot of bullying when I was a little child, and things were because I was very different, so it was very hard. So incredibly, with having these what we could just describe as incredible experiences, came also many challenges and many burdens. And for many years in my life, like I was mentioning before, I had this existential depression and I thought about death constantly. And many times I thought about taking my life too. And there was a moment in my life in which I became a marine scientist. I looked for the way to belong. It's a way to be normal. I wanted to be like everybody else. But the more I tried to be like everybody else's, meeting the demands of the world, the less I was my true self. I started to lose my authenticity. I started to disconnect from the truth that I was. And this escalated. And it was a moment that maybe in my outer reality I was very successful. I became a very successful marine scientist. I did my PhD in oceanography. I was working for NASA. I was doing all these projects, and in the outer, everything seemed really good, but in the inner, I became more and more and more homesick. And it was that sense of, like, yeah, I can have all this stuff in the world, but I felt empty. And then I reached the point where I remember my husband had to travel a lot. I was being the one raising our child, and I had a full-time job. I was a very busy person. And again, putting this face out there for the world. And one night I just had it. It was even hard to get out of bed. And then I'm lying next to my son. He was about 3 years old. And it was the moment, guys, where like this tiny thought, Francisco's talking about those voices of the angel and the little devil that we see in the cartoons, and suddenly that voice said, "You cannot leave your son without a mom. You cannot leave this world and leave him behind." And that tiny little idea of, yeah, you take your life, but you go with your son. We go together. When that thought touched my mind, I think I could not have gone like darker than that. That was my really, really dark moment in my life, and is when I didn't stay contemplating the idea. I didn't think anything else more. No, that shook me so hard that I thought, what am I doing? And it's when at that moment the clarity, these thoughts of clarity, because at those moments we even lose all the sense of logic. We're completely disconnected. There's no clarity, there's no discernment. But at that moment, that the light thankfully just touched me enough to think, wait one more day, wait one more day. There was another thing that I felt. It was the sense of, I could not make my mom suffer. My mom had had already enough sufferings in her life, and I could not be the cause of her, more of her suffering. I cannot do this to the people that love me. I cannot do this to my mom. Clarity came to me, and the other clarity was the sense of ask for help, pray, the prayer which I had stopped doing. I was busy, there's no time to pray, whatever. Now it just happened, I felt it in my heart and I started to pray. But my prayer wasn't, God, change this, change that. My prayer was, God, please give me clarity because I have lost all my clarity. Please help me see because I cannot see. I have become blinded. So it was a plea from my heart. Please bring me back to see, to have clarity. So yeah, these moments, oh my God, are
Wow.
just very, very, very difficult
Wow.
moments. Yeah.
Wow, Ingrid, it's just you touch my heart with the way you open it. Thank you for sharing. And as you say, we're just clarifying a little bit of the resources we can use. I'm going to tell you others that I use, but in this case, the prayer, like you said, is not about asking from the lacking, but just from the connecting back. So we need to connect back because we're so disconnected in that moment. And what I've been experiencing, what I've experienced there is that, yes, this is a very dark, dark moment, but it's a necessary stage toward a more conscious life. And this is what happens after we go through these moments. And for me, it was a moment of purification, of understanding, because like Francisco says, why are we in that moment? Because we don't understand. We don't understand what's really happening to us. I was so lost. And I still, when I remember that moment, I try to hug that little girl because for her, I mean, it was very innocent to just think that throwing a, a coin into my mouth with soap. So what happened in that moment? It was the moment I saw the coin throwing it in the floor. Of course, I was just imagining my mouth full of soap. I just wanted to drink water. I wanted to, but in
Yes.
that moment, as I had told you all before, every time I've had my raffle for different reasons, it was always when I was in a moment of about to lose my life, and in a moment of very very difficult health problems. And in that moment was not the exception. I saw my raffle right there. So I went immediately. I saw this coin full of light. I just immediately saw this big angel like I usually used to see in my raffle. I
Mm,
went immediately to the grass, to my garden, started with a hose drinking water. I started drinking and getting all the soap out of my, just flushing it out. And then I laid down in the grass. And this is really what I want to tell you all. I had probably this is the first conscious, completely conscious I didn't even know it was called like that. I didn't know. Now they call it connect to your inner self, connect to your higher self, do a meditation, breathing. Well, I did all of that in that moment. So this very, very dark moment turned into one of the most precious ones because I laid down and I closed my eyes and I completely connected to my inner self. I I come I asked for help, like what is this? What is happening? So I connected to my inner voice and I understood that there was definitely a reason why I was alive. But just imagine this visualization. I immediately had this download, how we call it now. And but I was in a profound, profound meditation, understanding that my life had a purpose. And the reason was that anything, and this has been happening up to this day. I was probably 10 or 11, but I now then knew that anything I could imagine, I could visualize more than imagining, anything I could visualize, I could create. So we're talking about a girl that was told that was not going to live, probably 8 or 9 years old, that was not going to be able. This was something I shared in previous episodes, that I was not going to be able to grow up, to have a college degree, to get married, to have a family, to get pregnant, to have uh, a marriage life. All of these things were, I was told that I was not going to get any of that. But in my mind, in my imagination, in my visualization, I had already seen all of that. So what I was told back then in that very dark moment was anything you can visualize, anything you can visualize in your mind, you can imagine, you can create in the physical world. So that was for me the light. That was the reconnection with spirit, with my soul. And this is so the darkness is really that you stop seeing what is really the purpose of your life. So what I've learned is that every time we have a dark moment, we have a confusion moment, we have a disconnection moment, is because it's something that's so necessary for us to purify our souls, our bodies, our inner, our higher selves, to be able to transform, to understand the meaning of our lives. So maybe it's not going to be one moment. Maybe we're going to have several moments like this. But understand that whenever you feel yourself in a very dark place, I would suggest to stop listening to these voices, to stop listening because everything is in our head. Stop listening to all of this, to understand that this is a moment for us to thrive, for us to reconnect and understand the real purpose of our lives. And it's coming out like Ingrid was told, just wait one more day. Just wait. Or like this person said, not now, because this is not what your life is about. So just wait one more day, wait for one more voice, and then you will understand that, yes, in my case, it was a meditation. Through a meditation, it was completely spiritual. I never ever told this to anybody, or this is the first time I'm sharing this. And I know Ingrid and Francisco too. So you're the first ones hearing that there are, without a way, there are ways, there are resources that we can use. It could be prayer, it could be meditation, it could be just quiet down, silence your thoughts, and hear your beautiful inner voice to get to this beautiful meaning and purpose of your life. So yes, I want to hear a little bit more about Francisco. How did you get out of this, Francisco? Tell us all
Yeah.
about
Well, before I get into that, I want to take this opportunity to talk to anyone who have ever contemplated suicide for one main reason. As I said previously, the words were, "You cannot live this. It is not your time. If you live, if you go now, you will take it with yourself." Uh, just as we already know, and you, Ana Cecilia, mentioned, everything is in the mind. This physical body is just a temporary vessel. We are minds. Everything runs through the mind. And let me see how I can explain it to you in a way that you can understand. When they say that you're going to take it with you, is because as we have a physical body, we have our limitations, but the mind can run free. Let me give you an example. I bet I think everyone have already experienced this. When traveling from point A to point B, you can see it in a map, or in a trajectory or whatever. And you can say from here to here, you got to take here, here, there, there. Oh, piece of cake. Yeah, right. First, you got to get in the car, then you have to take gas, then you're going to get tired, you have to go to the bathroom, you're going to be hungry, and the traffic jam, and all the things that are going through, they're going to put some limitations, and you know that you cannot go. If it took you this long to go from here to here, how imagine how long it will take to go farther than that. That's exactly what's going to happen, that would have happened if I would have committed suicide. That line of thought, that thinking, that world of deception I was gonna take it with me like in a spiral with no ending, because you know that the mind is so powerful. You can build a house with your mind, but not with your physical body. You see? So the moment I received that information, it struck me so hard that I understand, if I take this physical body and I take this with me, it's like I'm going to go to hell, because this is going to go on a spiral endlessly. And the other thing that they told me was that this woman told me was that it's going to be much easier to solve this problem here than on the other side. That's when I began to ask for help. So I went, because I knew that this was strictly spiritual. I went to all the mediums and psychics that I already knew. Of course, there's a lot of charlatans out there that I do understand, but these people were uh, very legitimate, so to speak. So I will never forget one psychic, very well known psychic, uh, that told me, "You cannot do this alone. Uh, you need help." And that's all it took. You're telling me that I cannot do it on my own? No, I am going to do it on my own. And how I got rid of it was not easy. Um, I spent 3 months trying to get rid of it, and still today, once you open a door, it never closes. It's your state of mind. The moment I said, "No, you are not going to get into my head. This is wrong. This is a lie. I am not going to allow this to happen," I just put a stop on it. I will never forget one medium that told me, I've been trying to help you get rid of this, but I don't know why it's still coming back. And that's when I realized that it was me allowing it, because I kept feeding it, because I kept running the movie over and over and over again in my mind. And as I kept running the movie, I was feeding that thing. And that thing was having well, one person told me, "You have no idea how much fun this entity is having with you. He's cracking up and you are here being miserable."
Wow.
And that was a very blunt statement, but it shook me up. That the purpose was to shake me up, to make me realize that I was the one, only me, the one who could stop it. So that's my advice to everyone. We are mind. This is a physical body. Don't let your mind run your life. You run your life through the statement and the state of mind that you put within yourself. Look always for the light. If you have those little two fighting, leave them alone. Don't get involved in their fighting. Don't just follow your intuition, trying to do the best out of everything. Be positive always, and don't let those disturbances get a hold of your mind. That's my advice. What about you, Ingrid?
Wow, wow. And I want to continue and deepening into what you two are saying. But I want to also add, when Francisco said that we are a mind, but of course, the deeper aspect of ourselves is that we are a soul with an organ called mind. It's always the part of like the soul, the spirit aspect of us, but with the capacity to use this organ that is our soul, our mind. Friend, there was a moment in my life when I realized that as the heart was pumping blood, my mind was pumping thoughts. So it was the recognition of that, the mind, that is so powerful, as you mentioned, Francisco, is that organ of the soul, capable to, oh my God, do create or destroyed. So we have to be very careful of what is running through here.
Indeed, yeah.
Yes, yes. And for me, the way I was able to come out of this situation so dark, and I love to hear how Anna and Francisco did it. And for me, was also with help. So the moment I started to pray and I asked for light, I love when Anna mentioned seeing her friend Raffle, her companion Francisco, getting people, because there's always, when we call for the light is going to come. That's the other amazing thing I'm hearing, and same here. For me was when I woke up that night that this happened, I finally fell asleep, and when I woke up in the morning, I felt the sense that I needed help. So that connection with the inner happened, and I felt and I hear it from the inside. You need help, and the help felt the sense of look for a psychologist, and it came that way because up to this moment in my life, I always thought I didn't need help from anybody, and I did not have any other resource at that moment that could offer any help, and so that was the answer that came. And that very day, I went to the office and I went to the computer and looked for the psychologists in the area. And I found one that actually was a very, had a good feedback. And I wrote the name on a paper. That day, I went to the cafeteria and I met a friend, and she started to tell me a story. Said, "Oh, my daughter is having some trouble and she's going to see this psychologist, who is a very good one." And that was the same name I have written on the paper. And then the very day, I met another person that, talking about something, mentioned the same doctor. I'm like, whoa, okay, this is clear. This is a synchronicity. And then I knew at that moment to talk to that doctor. And this, I went, and yes, it was incredible because he happened to be a very spiritual person. So when I met this doctor, I started to feel that sense of comfort, that I could share things, and he wasn't kind of going like, whoa. I even started to talk about spirits and all that, and he was very open-minded, and that helped a lot. And there was a moment in he asked me to write a list of sufferings. And I went on, okay, like, okay, let's write the list. But he said this was very cathartic. So I did the exercise. I wrote all the sufferings. I brought it to him. We read it together. And he said, "Ingrid, in my 37 years of practice, I have never met anyone that has suffered this much and is mentally stable. There's many, many things that happened throughout the course of my life." And then that moment, that it just struck me so hard. And I just went, I just cried, and I said these words that I get many of us probably have asked to the universe, why me? Why me? With this desperate feeling. And the answer came incredibly, the answer that finally kind of took me out of this victim position, this feeling so bad about myself. When I said, why me? He said, why not? And then he started, it was incredible because he started to say, thanks to this, you have done this, and thanks to this, you have done that, and thanks and thanks. And this is another thing. I realized that at that moment that he wasn't reading notes, he was talking from his heart. So that another healing moment is realizing the power of listening. He was listening. He had been listening to me. And then the other thing is when I realized that there was purpose behind all my experiences. There was purpose behind everything. Nothing had happened without a purpose. And then at that moment, I entered into the state of gratitude. So I have to say that three miracles happened for me that day. The first miracle was sitting there in this office, was the realization that as I understood that was purpose, that nothing ever happened to me it happened for me. It was like, so I could be at this moment of clarity, at this moment of understanding, at this moment of awareness, at this moment of openness. And if anything, all these experiences have given me the capacity to be more compassionate, more open, more empathic, more loving, more caring. And then the other miracle, the second miracle, was that I realized that my truth and only truth is that I was sitting in front of this doctor and nothing else was real. Like Francisco mentioned, like, oh my gosh, this mind, that everything was in my mind and that I could do anything that was in my mind. I could do anything with it, that I have the power to stop it right now. I love how Francisco shared, like it was me, like taking the pretty much I feel it, taking the leash, the horse. This is my mind and I can do whatever I want with my thoughts. And that gave me a sense of empowerment. And the last miracle was the realization of what true forgiveness was. Because sometimes we just forgive, but it's the forgiveness of the ego, like, oh yeah, I forgive you, but no, this was realizing that as I said before, if nothing was done to me but for me, then what was to forgive? If everything carried a meaning for my growth and evolution. So at that moment, I could say that everything was forgiven or that there was nothing to forgive. So that I think the feeling was that of liberation, the one of freedom. And that's how I was able to get out of that victim mentality. And I put myself for the first time at the cause and not the effect. So that gave me that amazing sense of power. So I just feel,
Wow, wow.
oh, yeah, this is incredible how we can come out of it, because the three of us did it. Look, such hard experiences, and I know many people have done it. And before I move to you, Anna, like I always said to people, write a list of the things that have worked. What worked, not what didn't work. Thanks to this, I'm more, I don't know, powerful, intelligent, resilient. I can use my story to help others, whatever it is. But stop looking at the glass half empty and start looking at the glass half full. That would be my.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. And to end up, because I know we need to wrap up, one of the last things I wanted to say is, like, for everybody, for all of us, this has been without a doubt a purification and transformation process. For me, it was definitely everything that Ingrid just mentioned is how important it was for me to start being grateful. I had a family, I had parents. They were taking care of me as well as they could. And if I was there, there was a reason. I started to feel very confident that I was not alone. There was
Mm,
always someone taking care of me and walking with me. I was never alone. This was never meant, like Ingrid just said it very accurately. Nothing happened to me. It happened for me. And as I had already mentioned in previous episodes, I know we made the decisions we made before we came here for a reason. And if I was here, I was going to be responsible and make the best out of my life. Now I'm 60 and I say it very proudly. And everything I have ever visualized up to this moment, it has come to be created. It's real. So yes, with this, I want to end up with my participation of telling you that every dark night of the soul you've ever gone through, there's a reason for it, and you're gonna come out of it stronger. You're not alone. You're not the only one that has gone through this, but this is sometimes part of what we need to go through to really know we are. We are light. We are beings that are here to show, to make the best out of this life, as difficult as it seems. But without any hesitation, I tell you, just like Ingrid said, I'm grateful. I'm concentrating my life in what I do have, and not with what I lack. So with this, I really thank everybody for giving us the opportunity to share. Francisco, please wrap up with this like you always do, in an amazing way. Thank
Francisco,
you.
you're muted, so
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
please talk to us.
Yes. Uh, yes. I wanna give you something that I left behind that I don't want this to end without it. While I was going through the recovery, which took a long time because it wasn't just like me and my mind, oh, I got everything solved. No, it took time, and it takes
Mhm.
time.
It
But
does.
one person very close to me told me, you have no idea that you have an army of souls helping you. And that is very
There you
important.
go.
You are not alone.
Mhm.
In those
That's very
moments that you
important.
might feel that you are all alone in this world, you are not. It's just that you need to open your mind to allow that help to come through. And as it is very important that I didn't want to leave that behind. You are never alone. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
So
Excellent.
with this, I want to wrap it up, asking you to please ask questions. Yes, Ingrid, you were going to say something?
Before that part, I
Oh,
just want to
go
say
ahead.
some keywords. Oh my, this has been so beautiful
Go ahead.
because Anna said the word purification. Now you say the word we're never alone, and Anna said it too, never ever alone. So all these bring me to just think with that clarity that at the end of the day, darkness, the purpose of that darkness is to bring us to remember the light,
The light.
bring us
Correct.
back home, that home we're looking, and to serve. Look at what we are all doing with our experiences, serving. And with that, I leave you, Francisco.
Yes. So I will ask everyone to share this podcast with anyone that you know that might be depressed, with anxiety, lost, with confusion. Everyone that you might think that might be this video might be of good help, and share this with everyone if you can. Don't keep us a secret. Our job is to spread the word, and most important of all, ask your questions. Because thanks to
Yes.
those who asked that very question about the dark night of the soul, is the reason why we're here bringing that subject in. So ask your question, allowed us to bring the subject for us to give you clarity, clarification, give us the opportunity to give all of you our insights based on our own experiences, not something that you might have read in books, look into the internet, or even the AI. True life experiences.
We've gone
And
through
that's
it.
that's
Yeah.
what we want to bring to the table. So I
Thank
leave
you.
you with that.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
everybody.
you, everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you
See
next
you in next episode. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
time.